Hi everyone, this is the third video about the Chrysalids, the science fiction novel. Today we'll deal with chapter 5, as you see. The stock and crops in the season are pure, and we mean by pure that they don't have a lot of deviation. We said before, if there is deviation in the crops, they have to burn them. The tomatoes might look bigger or very small, or the color is different. Okay, you can apply to these to any other plant. So this season the stock and the crops are pure. The stock of the animals are, for example, cows and offsprings of cows and buffaloes and so on, and sheep, mostly okay. David spent his time avoiding work, a naughty boy, okay. He was the youngest, so he couldn't play with anyone, and sometimes if they don't see him in the morning, they forget about him, so he avoided work and he sneaked away to play with Sophie by the stream. Okay, so at that time we are talking about them while they were like fishing by the stream. So one day a boy called Alan Irvin, he is an older boy, he interrupts their play, and of course Sophie had to sneak away, but unfortunately Alan sees one of her 6-toed footprints on a rock. She was standing on a rock, the rock was wet, and her feet, of course, so her feet left footprint, and the boy, while talking to David, the boy saw the footprint of 6 toes. Of course he had to ask David about that, who was the girl, who ran away, and so on. And of course he decided in his mind to report that. David knew that, and he fought with him. You can imagine that Alan was older, so he was about to beat David. Sophie interfered and she hits Alan over the head with a rock. Excitement, okay? So Sophie and David had to escape. They thought the boy was killed. They had to escape back to Sophie's home. When you read this, you will see how Sophie suffered because going home was not easy, okay, with all of this trouble in her mind. When she went home, she told her mother, and David told the mother and the father, Mr. and Mrs. Winder, about what happened, and they decided to escape. They decided to flee. They had that in their mind long ago, and they were prepared, so anytime anyone knew about Sophie, they will fly away. David desperately wants to go with them, and I ask you, why? Why does he want to go with them? So maybe because he feels that they are good family, there is a kind mother, a father who does not punish by the whip, okay, and he has the good company of Sophie. Now, but it was impossible. Why? Mrs. Winder thought about it, but Mr. Winder was more practical. He said, imagine we escaped. Maybe they will think that, okay, out of the borders we are not their problems, so they will not follow us. But imagine if David Storm's son is with us. They will think that we kidnapped him and they will come after us. So David going with them will cause them more trouble. So the Winders asked David to stay the night at their home in order to give them a head start on their journey, because they believed if David goes home he will be interrogated. Of course Alan maybe told his family about this, and maybe they were waiting for him to ask about the Wenders. So to make sure, the Wenders started their escape earlier, and David stayed the night at their home. It was a horrible night for him. So when David returns to his home, this is what is expected. This is what is expected. He found the inspector waiting, and the inspector comes to question him. He is accused of concealment of blasphemy, a major crime in this society. He knew about Sufi and he did not report to her, so this is concealment. His father wanted to take the whip of the inspector, but the inspector of course refuses. Anyway, he found his whip, and his father punished David for his concealment by whipping him harshly on his back. David cries into his pillow, muttering to Sophie that he couldn't help what he did, because you can imagine that after this harsh beating, he would tell all about Sophie's family. Don't consider him coward. If you are beaten with a whip, you will tell all about what you did and what even you didn't do. Okay? That was the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6. David telepathically communicates to other telepaths what he knows about what happened to Sophie. Okay? So now we know that it's not only David and Rosalind, okay, who communicate together with telepathy. We have others. Okay, we mentioned them before. The others are not completely convinced that a deviation like Sufi's might not be disgusting and evil. So even if the society might consider the telepathies to be deviation, they still don't think that they are so. So they think of Sufi as deviation, and as they learned from their father and mothers that deviation is disgusting and evil and so on. So they have this teaching, of course. David has the dream of Sufi being sacrificed. Okay, and of course he cried a lot, and he tried to stop his father from killing Sufi in the dream. David is told by Mary, his sister, to spend the day healing in bed. She told him you have to rest. Frustrated, of course, he begins to plan how he will run away. He wants to escape. Next day, the inspector came with a bag of sweets, and he tries to interview David about Sufi and the Wenders. And the inspector told him that blasphemies of humans are not killed, are not slaughtered like animals. They are just expelled. He sent them out to the fringes. So the inspector said what he believed, that the devil sent Sufi as an imitation of the human form. But of course, David cannot imagine that such an innocent girl would be anything related to the devil. David's father came in to announce the Wenders were caught by chance, not by what David said. So the inspector told him, "Don't blame yourself. A patrol caught them on the borders." Uncle Axel advised David against running away because David asked his advice. Uncle Axel was a sailor, so as a sailor he saw the lands beyond Labrador. He agreed with him that some places are habitable, according to the stories of the sailors, and there were other civilizations. But these civilizations are living with genetic mutations. Okay, so they suffered mutations, but it's okay for them, and they even believe that they are the normal ones, not the people of Wagner, for example. So here you will find that you are in front of different points of view. Which of us is the normal thing? Interestingly, many of these peoples have the same legends of the old people, that they could fly and communicate with others miles away, as David saw in his dream. So Uncle Axel believed there is nothing such as the city in David's dream. He does not believe what other civilizations think, because he saw nothing like that, and he does not expect that there are people who still have the technology of the old people. David needs Uncle Axel's help to find out about one of the telepaths, one of this group, who stopped communication suddenly. And that was confusing, because if that person is caught or anything happened to him, why didn't he tell them that he is in trouble? But he stopped communicating suddenly, and that's why David asked for Uncle Axel's help. Okay, so this is it for now. Goodbye.